Okay, I would suggest we start. Welcome everyone to the workshop on the journey towards the collaboration with courts, prisons, the probation service, and other stakeholders in Albania. I'm very glad to introduce to you the two workshop facilitators, Iris Luarasi and Bledar Zeneli from the counseling line of men and boys in Albania. Iris is also the vice president of GREVIO, and CLMB is one of our valued members. So I'm very much looking forward to their workshop today, and also to all of your contributions. Just some brief information about the structure of this workshop. So the first 20 minutes will be a presentation by Bledar and Iris. The second 20 minutes will be small group discussion in breakout rooms. And then for the last 20 minutes, we'll all come together again in the main room to have a group discussion. Probably most of you have used Zoom. I will just give a very brief overview over the main functions. Here on the bottom left, you can unmute yourself to speak when you're called on. Here you can turn your video on and off. Here you can see who's in the workshop. Here is the chat. Please open it now, actually. Start saying hi, tell us where you're joining from, and yes, that's all. So yeah, I'm happy to give the word to Iris and Bledar. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Antonia, so much for the introduction. I'm not losing any time because it is very limited. We have been told that we have only 20 minutes in disposal, so that's why I'm starting. So first, I just wanted to make a very short summary, like how the Istanbul Convention, which is the Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence, embeds perpetrator programs in its strategy to prevent violence against women. The convention, it has required from all the state parties that ratified the convention to invest in programs for rehabilitation of perpetrators, not only for domestic violence, but also for the sex offenders. But also the convention have seen that the perpetrator programs as a comprehensive and integrated approach on fighting violence against women, and it's required from all the state parties that this should be part of the national policies or national strategies. And there is a strong reason why the convention sees such an important part of the fight against domestic violence and violence against women. It has already been proven that leading perpetrators to accept responsibility for their violence, this is one of the ways you could reduce violence against women, and this can be guided through perpetrator programs. So I would like Bledar to go in the second page because actually it is in the Article 16 of the Convention that the Istanbul Convention requires state parties to set up support two separate types of programs. Those that are targeting domestic violence perpetrator, which is the paragraph 1 of the Article 16, and others designed for sex offenders, which is the paragraph 2 of the Article 16. But also in a very explicit way, Article 16 outlines that perpetrator programs must ensure the safety and support for victims. Furthermore, I think it is essential that perpetrator programs work closely with women's services and law enforcement agencies, such as probation service, prison, child services where appropriate. And across Council of Europe member states, we actually have seen a lot of examples and a lot of models. For example, I have been the monitor in Sweden as part of GREVIO, and we saw that the Swedish prison and probation service ran accredited programs for convinced offenders and those on probation. All were voluntary in nature, but participation have impacted positively offenders' risk assessment prior to release. In Sweden, they used the IDAP model that were first developed in the United Kingdom on the basis of the Duluth domestic abuse intervention programs. While, for example, when I was the monitor in Finland, we experienced absolutely a different setup. The Criminal Section Agency offers rehabilitation programs for convicted offenders which contain elements to address violent behavior. Here as well, all programs were voluntary in nature, as courts in Finland cannot order perpetrators to attend behavioral change programs. In the meantime, all domestic violence perpetrator programs were run by civil society organizations. Now I'm not losing any more time with that, and I'm coming to the CLMB, the counseling line for men and boys, which started in 2012 as a project of the National Helpline 116-117, that is also officially named Counseling Line for Women and Girls. And the center, it was set up with the support of our long-standing donor, Yamane, from Switzerland. When we started to operate, we had an office full of counselors trained and no perpetrators to the service. So we were trying to lobby, even on personal basis, with judges on sending the perpetrators with court orders. And the first case we got, it was during 2013. And it was probably the most difficult case we ever had. Still, the number we got were not justifying the trainings and the number of counselors trained. So it was this difficult moment when we came up with the idea to develop an agreement with the General Directorate of Prisons and Probation Service in the country. And here we are today. Bledar will explain you more in details on how we do operate on day-to-day basis with those services. But briefly, just to explain what other tasks the counseling line for men and boys does. The primary activity is absolutely the offer for the rehabilitation programs for perpetrators. In Albania, participation in perpetrator programs may be court-ordered, may be voluntary, or through probation service and inside prisons. This year, under the circumstances that COVID-19 created, we have been able to offer online counseling for our clients inside the prison. But despite of counseling, during the years, we have conducted a lot of research and publications, such as a brochure for respondents, have produced a guideline for probation officers and police in prison, and already are in the process of drafting the standards of working with perpetrators in the country. And we actually wanted also to thank WWP because we have been using their guideline as a roadmap. During these years, and there are 8 years of being active, we offered capacity building and training for judges, training dedicated to prison and probation staff, police, teachers, and school psychologists. Lobby and advocacy and awareness is also, they are one of our pillars. This year, for example, we're working on amending several articles of the criminal code on the section of sexual violence. We have asked creating an electronic registers for sexual offenders in Albania, chemical castration for pedophiles, changes in the on the rape law, and introduction of the notion of consent in our legislation. And we also have asked amendments for the mandatory entry into rehabilitation programs for sexual offenders. As well, CLMB is a part of the referral mechanism system in several municipalities, and our program is set up to in close coordination with specialist support services for victims. We have done a lot of fatherhood campaigns, and we are using gender transformative work with young people, and also created in the country the Be a Man Club with the young boys. Now I'm not keeping more than enough time because I think it was enough for the introduction. So I'm passing the floor to Bledar in order to continue in more details on what we do with prison and probation services.
Thank you, Iris. Hello to everyone that joined this workshop. I will focus on this second part due to our collaboration with institutions and others. I will start with Counseling Line for Men and Boys have a memorandum of understanding with General Directorate of Prison, Probation Service, Courts, School of Magistrature, Albanian State Police Security Academy, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health and Protection. I will focus during this presentation only on the Tirana municipality where Counseling Line for Men and Boys is part of referral mechanism. I will focus during this presentation only on our collaboration with prison, probation office, and courts, because the aim of this annual conference is for that. Based on our first memorandum of understanding, we started work only at one prison. I remember the first time Iris mentioned a little bit that it was very difficult. In the meantime, we have to convince not only men to participate to our service, but also the institution representatives or society or other NGOs, because they were saying that why you need or why we need a program for perpetrator. So at the beginning, we start only at one prison. And I remember that also the number of sessions per day were limited. We were allowed only 1 or 2 hours per day to go inside this one prison and to conduct counseling sessions. The counseling process were conducted in the presence of education specialists and one policeman that stays near to us in the same table. It was very difficult, but we have to start from somewhere. And each sessions last from 40 to 50 minutes. So I can say that we could have the maximum 2 sessions per day or to work only with 2 perpetrators. And we did provided the counseling process at prison library. So it was a big library where other prisoners can come, and we was in a separated space with 2 specialists. But after 1 year that we worked a lot in many different, we came with the second memorandum of understanding with the general director of prison. So you will see that we improved many things. We got the permission to deliver our services now in 2 prisons. They like very much the way how we approach, and they find out that there are results with men that have been part of our program. So we were allowed to go into prison, raise number for sessions per day. Also, during the second memorandum of understanding, we were allowed to stay more in prison and more than 1 counselor. We developed a close relationship with the education specialists, and we try to identify, coordinate together the counseling sessions. So at the beginning, they contact with perpetrator, they explain our service, they invited them to be part of the program, and then in this way we started. We changed a little bit because we know that it's not so confidential to work with perpetrator in the meantime with police inside that hear everything. So still we were doing casual session on the presence of police, but now in distance from our conversation. He stays away or near to the door. So we created a kind of room or private counseling, and we started to improve the work with perpetrator. During this time, we conducted several training with education specialists and psychologists for every prison in country. We agreed, or during every year, we try to find out what has been the challenge or obstacle. So we thought that we need also some allies or like the staff to be on our side and to know how they can invite the perpetrator to be part of our program. So from that time to time, we are doing several trainings. I will mention on why we are doing so much trainings with them a little further. The current memorandum of understanding, this time we signed a 3 years memorandum of understanding with General Director of Prison. We are allowed to deliver our service in every prison in country, but we have a limited resources or a limited capacity to offer that. So for the moment, we are delivering our service face-to-face at 3 prisons. During the COVID situation, we are doing online the sessions, but we are allowed to do this with all prisons in Albania, and our strategy is to extend the online services also for other prisons in Albania. The number of sessions per day and the time inside the prison is increased significantly. So now we are allowed to go inside prison at 8:30 morning and we finish at 1:30 midday. So it's not only one counselor that go inside, so we can reach many perpetrators. I want to mention that so far until now, with perpetrator from prison, we are working only individual basis, face-to-face, not in group therapy. That's the reason that I'm trying to identify the numbers or the way why it's important to stay more hours inside prison. The counseling sessions now are conducted without the presence of police. So I think that this is a huge step forward. Now we go at these places and police is not anymore with us. So it's a very professional or it's a very confidential relationship with the perpetrator. And we achieve only on the 3rd memorandum of understanding that the police to not be part of or to not be physically inside. We have our space inside each sector to provide custody sessions inside the sector. The prison it's divided for those who have work in prison. So you have the library that can go everyone that moves from one floor to others. But now, counseling line for men and boys have a specific space that we use for counseling sessions that is inside the prison. And we go there, we have in coordination with staff of education, we have the list and we call them one by one and we continue our counseling session. It's a big improvement in this direction. The counseling line for men and boys contacts number and we achieved during the third memorandum of understanding that on the wall of inside prison that it's very difficult to put numbers. They are allowed only a few numbers there, only like abusement, that is population advocate, and is the number of counseling line for men and boys to our posters. So from those posters or those numbers, we have also other calls that want confidentially, and they are contacting us for going through the counseling sessions. We have continued capacity building for the staff. As I mentioned, I will mention to the obstacles that we need to do more and more staff training regarding this issue to make them aware that it's very important of working with perpetrator. What was new is that we created a parenting room inside the prison. For the first time, we came on idea, counseling line for men and boys, to discuss with the education department to have a parenting room that with perpetrator that have improved their behavior, they can meet their children in that place. So it's a very specific, it's well prepared with toys, and it's very comfortable for them. During COVID-19, we agreed to provide our service through Skype with 3 prisons. It was the biggest achievement in this regard. At the beginning, I mentioned that we faced some difficulty on continuing our work in collaboration with prison because we could not call them, and it's very expensive for them to call us, and they don't have much time to spend on phone calls. So in our discussion with them, we decided that due to this situation, they will install the internet inside those counseling rooms, only on those counseling rooms, and they are coming one by one, and we are doing counseling sessions on Skype. Counseling line for men and boys is planning to extend online counseling also with other prisons in Albania. As I mentioned at the beginning, we find out that during the third memorandum of understanding, we are allowed to deliver our service in all prisons, but we cannot go physically there, and we will use now this online methodology on working with perpetrators. I will stop just a few on obstacle and challenge. Director and staff change. Sometimes many change of staff during these years. It's happened for 2 reasons. One reason is when there are new election or the government is changed, all the ways the high director are changed. But not only, it's a kind of interior protocols that the director of prison, but also the staff could not stay for many times in one prison just to cut these private links. They don't have to be so near with prisons because it's a matter of security, and they have to move to one prison to other. And that causes also the need for the new staff trainings, need for coordinating the work with the new staff, because always we have to find and to fit with their program. One other obstacle and challenge is the dropout cases. Sometimes clients finish their sentence before they complete the counseling cycle, and several of them don't want to, don't want to continue further, even though the offer does exist. I want to mention that when they are pre-detention and they are sentenced, 1 day is count 1.5. So sometimes they go to appeal and this sentence, and they go out from prison earlier that the program is. So this is a challenge. Sometimes we face the transfer from one prison to others. It's a matter of interior protocols, so we sometimes have difficulty to reach them. The service for them is not obligatory, so also is a challenge, and we will try to do our best in future to do this like obligatory, but for the moment, they want to accept by their own. Until 2018, the amnesty of men that use domestic violence has been one of the obstacles. Sometimes on December, the Ministry of Justice came out with came out with that they want to get amnesty. But after this, now is not allowed anymore the amnesty for perpetrator. Thanks of the lobbying and the work that not only Council Line for Men and Boys, but also the National Hotline and other organizations have done. They are not available because of health problem, court representatives, relatives meeting, the internal protocols doesn't ask to allow to replace the sessions. Also during COVID, we faced a lot of obstacles because of what I mentioned before. We agreed to do Skype canceling. The difficult environment and the difficult and aggressive environment also is obstacle and challenge on our work at prison. It's not the same like you are doing counseling at office. And also we face also that we need a structured follow-up program after they finish the program at prison. Regarding probation service, we can say that it's not obligatory, but the probation staff make them offer and the perpetrator decide if they want to participate or not. The counseling is conducted at probation service premises. At the beginning, we agreed that they have to come to our office, but we faced some difficulty challenge, and now we have our space at probation office and counselors are going there to deliver the services. But for perpetrators that could not come on regular hours, we fixed with our freelance. They can come to our office after 5 p.m. To continue the counseling process. The program for perpetrator is individual also at the probation office from 16 to 26 sessions, and the sessions is 15 minutes each. Every year, Council Line for Men and Boys is offering periodic training of staff regarding perpetrator programs at not only in Tirana. Recently, we have published the guidelines for probation office because doing trainings is very useful, but also we need like a written material inside the probation service that will be like a guidelines or helpful for staff to refer the perpetrator at our services. Obstacles, the service is not obligatory. Several perpetrators, lawyers disagree for their clients to participate in this program. That has been one challenge with the probation office perpetrator, and we were very surprised that some of the lawyers doesn't want that they participate in this program. Several clients stay or after a period, it's a kind of interior roles at probation office. They have to short the period of coming, and so this is another obstacle. Until 2018, the amnesty of men that use domestic violence released them from having the obligatory presence to probation service, so some of them don't want to continue anymore the program. After 4 or 5 months, the perpetrator attend probation service, the frequency of meeting is no longer the same. They have to come, for example, one in a couple of weeks or 1 in 3 weeks, and this is very difficult for us to manage the sessions with some of them. Not structured follow-up program after they finish the program at probation office continues to stay one of the challenge. Now 2 minutes for the result. What have been the result of our work sense of this collaboration? The number of perpetrators involved to our service is increased year by year. Now we see that we need more capacity, like more counselor training to do the work because the number of perpetrators increased. The level of recidivism of men and boys that have been part of our program is low. And I want to mention that in collaboration with institutions, they reported us that for men and boys that participate to our program, they are not anymore convicted again for domestic violence, but a few number of them. The safety of victims and other family members is another result. Men that participate to our service referred by this institution are more likely to seek help when they face new complicated situation. We know that we have several clients that, for example, I have work or the team have worked in 2016, and now they have a new life. They contacted us when they have problem with their recent partner. Council Line for Men and Boys now is a focal point regarding work with perpetrator in Albania. I can say strongly this because we now many stakeholders they wanted to collaborate with us and to refer the cases that have problem with violent behavior in family. For the first time during COVID-19, inside prison, we did online counseling session with perpetrator. This is a big step I want to mention again. Institutions more and more are taken very seriously the work with perpetrators, thanks of our work, our result, and our lobbying and research that we are doing in this field. Institutions are more and more taken seriously to refer perpetrator.